Stevie, what was wrong with Inter today?
Well, it's a bit of a pattern when you think about it with Conte, whenever it comes to big games. And, you know, as a young player growing up, joining Liverpool and actually sitting watching and being involved in the build-up to big games, the one thing they always said was just to be relaxed, keep calm, don't be changing things. You know, there's a thing called nervous energy, and if you're spending the week before a big game getting hyped up and the manager's talking about it all the time, that takes it out of you. Now, that has to be one of the reasons. And again, the other one is Conte. It's all about Conte. That's why he doesn't put Eriksen on, because it's all about him. He's already told people that he doesn't fancy him. He doesn't think he can do the job. And so, regardless of what's best for the team, or regardless of what's probably needed at the time, he won't do it. But I would suggest this is down to Conte. He must be preparing his teams for big games wrongly, because it's gone wrong so many times. You only have to look at the final last season in the Europa League. So, and Juventus as well. I mean, how many times did they crash out with Juventus? So I think a lot of this has to do with his coaching style.
Gab, you mentioned the excuses he made after the games. Enlighten us.
Well, I want to add another point on Eriksen first. The fact that the weekend before, they played Bologna. They're winning 3-0. Wonderful, composed performance. They look solid. He brought Eriksen on in injury time. Eriksen played 1 minute. Now, there's no reason to do that unless you really want to humiliate the guy and make him feel like rubbish. I'm sure everybody there can tell you, oh, how does it feel when you're a starter and you're one of the highest paid players on the team and they bring you on for 1 minute at the end? Is the coach trying to tell you something? So even then, even before this game, he clearly didn't prepare Eriksen properly if he was going to use him at all. Beyond that, the reasons Inter are out, well, see, among other things, he said, well, we couldn't score. Okay, fair enough. He mentioned the fact that that referees Inter don't get enough respect from referees in Europe, which I don't know what you mean by that. If you mean you get the calls, if you mean there's a big conspiracy against you. And then this is what really got me, they asked him, oh, but you beat Shakhtar 5-0 in the Europa League back in August, and now this. And he said, well, what was different? And he said, well, Shakhtar changed their game plan. When they play us, they change their game plan from the way they usually play. In fact, a lot of teams go and change their game plan when they usually play. We find that difficult. And I'm like, God forbid the opposing manager goes and lays out a game plan to try to stop you. And finally, the best thing, I was watching on Italian television, they have Fabio Capello in the studio, right? Fabio Capello does have a bit of CV. He's also Conte's old boss. He says, you know, I don't think you had a plan B in this game. And Conte says, well, no, I did have a plan B. I always have a plan B. And Capello asks him, so what is that plan B? And he says, well, I'm not going to tell you. I'm certainly not going to come out and say what that plan B is on television, because otherwise that's going to give my opponents an advantage. I mean, honestly, this is schoolyard stuff. And look, I feel for him. He's under pressure, whatever. But at that point, you know, what conclusions are people supposed to draw about him?
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.